Hello everybody and welcome back to the YouTube channel. I know this setup is a bit weird. It doesn't have a pretty YouTube background and all of that, how it is in usual YouTube videos, but I'm always traveling, I'm always on the move. So this is it. This is basically my friendly chit chat corner where I talk to my friends. But the whole point of this video is to kind of give my insights into how I burnt out, how this can happen to literally anybody, reality of the creator industry, and how you can learn from it and what am I doing moving forward. So you can watch this video for two reasons. Number one is that you're just interested in what's up in my life, and number two is that you want to learn how to cope with burnout, what it kind of looks like. Maybe you're going through something similar, and when I was going through it I felt very alone, and watching literally any videos or reading anything wherein someone else was feeling similarly really helped me out a lot when my mental health was down in the dumps. So that's kind of the point of this, and this is going to be a long video, so I would recommend that you grab something, grab a bowl of food or a drink or whatever while you're watching this, because we are in for a story. So to give you some context on what happened and why it happened, I think we need to reverse a bit, go back into the story of who I am in general, what was my childhood like, and you know, this is basically a therapy session in a way. To give you some context, my dad is in the military. We moved every 2 years. I've always loved traveling with all my heart and soul. I also always loved being good at school, good at sports, like basically, you know, being like that topper vibes. That was kind of like who I was and what my identity was growing up. When I was in college, I started feeling very restricted when I was at home because, you know, I wanted to go out. I was in Delhi, but my parents won't allow that. Society always, anyway, with women was always like, no, you can't go out alone, you can't travel alone, you can't do this, you can't do that. So my whole point in university kind of became to fight against all of these can'ts. So, you know, I picked up 3 internships to work my ass off so that I could earn some money and travel. I rebelled against my parents, mostly moved out of my house and started living on campus in an apartment. Not that it was like a super negative experience with them, it's just that there was a lot of like friction at that time. And I started traveling by myself and using that money to do all of it by myself. But while I was doing all of that, a big part of it was just for the love of travel. You know, I would just travel for pure joy and love of it, nothing else. And there was still a lot of hustle involved, right? And the whole point that traveling showed me was that I can live this life where I'm independent, where I can earn my own money, where I can not even, if I don't want to live in India, I can choose not to live in India. And all of this I learned from meeting different people from around the world who were living these wild lives. You know, get that financial freedom, I needed to get a good job. And at that point of time, the only job that I knew that was like achievable and in my grasp was getting a consulting job. I started working at Bain Capability Network, which is BCN or Bain & Company in India. Yeah, it was a great job. It paid me really well. It helped me get out of my house and, you know, travel a bit around India. I stayed in Goa. I stayed in different cities all over India while working remotely because I joined when the pandemic started. But what ended up happening during this time is that I also started creating content on the side. I started creating content for other people who work remotely or women who want to travel solo and just different buckets. But I was doing all of this while working a full-time job that almost had 11 to 12 hour work days every single day. So I would work for 11 to 12 hours and then create content every day, then work on the weekend. For 2 years, this became my default setting. Being stressed all the time, working all the time, because I had this dream that I wanted to achieve. And at this point, I'm not even sure if I would say that, you know, if I wouldn't have worked that hard, if I wouldn't have like rugrode myself at that point, I would have gotten here at the age of 25, right? I do feel that those sleepless nights, those nights of like really pushing myself to the limit, really working hard, did get me where I am. But I think the mistake that I made looking back was that I didn't do it mindfully. Like, I didn't know I am putting myself through this. I kind of just kept doing it on a default setting without realizing what this is doing to me, that my normal state of being just became, I'm stressed, I need to work more. If I don't work more, I'm not productive enough. If I'm not productive enough, I won't make enough money. If I don't make enough money, I'm gonna have to go back home and I won't be able to travel again, and I will be stuck in one city forever my whole life. That became my default setting. So slowly I started realizing that okay, Bain will start calling people back to office, and the work just didn't seem very fulfilling to me. I was mostly just making Excel sheets and PowerPoints the whole day. That was definitely not my calling. And I really struggle. Like, I think people who can do jobs that they just see as jobs is a skill in itself. Like, I cannot do that. I need to have like fulfillment, passion, enjoyment from my job, and only then am I able to do it. I had to quit Bain, and when I quit Bain, I ended up applying at LinkedIn, and I got an opportunity there which was amazing. Like, that was one of my favorite jobs ever, I would say, and I would still go back to it if I weren't doing what I'm doing right now. And I started working there remotely, full-time, so I could travel, I could work remotely. I was working in the creator industry at LinkedIn, and it was great. But at the same time, I kind of realized that I can't keep doing this because I was again burning out. I could feel that. It used to keep happening. There were these mini burnouts where I would have a month of just feeling really low, feeling depressed, and I'm not using the word depressed lightly here. I really felt depressed, and no motivation to do anything, not even travel, not even go out, and life just seemed dull. And this would keep happening, you know, since Bain, then LinkedIn. When I was at LinkedIn, I spoke to my family. My mom was someone who actually pushed me. She kept saying that, you know, you can't keep doing both the things. You can't keep creating content at full steam and working at LinkedIn at full steam. You have to choose one. Take the leap of faith and either do content or leave that, forget about it, do it on the side a little bit, and just work at LinkedIn and focus on one thing and be fair to the opportunity that you're getting. That made me realize that okay, I need to give myself 1 year, and I'm going to quit my job at LinkedIn, and I'm going to try out this content creation thing full time, travel the world, and see how I like it. So far, I'd been doing it on weekends, early mornings, and after work hours. I quit my job at LinkedIn and started doing this full time. Now this is where it gets wild. It was so much fun. I traveled to so many different countries every single month. I started earning enough as well from content creation, and my page started growing rapidly. So after I quit my job, because I was able to dedicate all my time to content creation, and like I said, my default setting was still hustle, work hard, which meant that it wasn't like I was working lesser hours. I was probably working more hours, and now I didn't have any weekends off because I was my own boss. And I just like was working in full steam, and yeah, my account grew insanely fast. Like, it went from, when I quit LinkedIn, from like 200k to I think 550, 600k in the next 6 months. And by the next year, which is like now, I have a community of 1 million. All of this was because, you know, I was like really just going hard at it, traveling a lot, and I was having a great time. But the one thing that didn't leave me were those, you know, little mini burnouts that kept happening throughout, and these days where I would just feel so low, and I think emotional regulation was just non-existent. It would be like some days where you're on a high, you're so happy, and some days where you're so low that I would just cry. I would not be able to get out of bed. I really struggled. I also was doing everything by myself, manage all my brand collaborations. I would do my own editing. I would make my own script. The first step was building a team. So I slowly built a team. One of my best friends started working with me as my manager, and then we hired another social media manager because I slowly started realizing that, okay, this is becoming big and I'm not able to manage this all by myself. So I slowly started building a team, which was great, which really helped, you know, organize things in my head, which helped organize and structure my workplace. But what it also did was add another layer of pressure on my head, because now there were all these people who I was paying, and if I stopped working and I took a break, there was nothing for anybody else to do. That pressure was a complete new ball game. Another thing that ended up happening, my therapist asked me one day, she said, you know, what you've done is incredible and you love your life and everything that you've built, but have you ever thought at what cost have you done all of this? And that was such an interesting question, because I don't think we ever stop to ask ourselves when we're working so much, when we're putting in those extra hours, when we're not taking weekends off, like at what cost are we doing that? I'm not saying that you stop doing it then, but you should be aware at what cost is this happening. And I think if I would have stopped a little earlier, maybe I wouldn't have grown to a community of 1 million. Maybe I wouldn't have traveled to so many countries by the age of like 25 or by what I'm doing right now. But I think the mental toll that it took over me would have been easier, would have been lighter. This part is going to be more sad and negative, even though I want to just highlight that life was great, but obviously there were other things that started kind of happening, which I would say are like the downfall of sort when it comes to my mental health. And that's the point of this video, and I want to share that, which is why I'm focusing more on that. So don't take this to be me being ungrateful or me complaining about the life that I had. It's just me sharing what happened. Number one was my default setting was just high stress, work too hard. And if I'm not working too hard, I would feel like everything around me would collapse. So then when there were days of calm, when, brand work was going well, videos were going well, I was doing normal work, it felt like I'm in an unnatural state of calm and I need to do something more. Like, this feels too calm, I'm not working enough, something is not right. Like, this false sense of urgency is something that I started creating for myself. And then I would start scrambling for different things to do, adding more things to my plate without realizing why am I doing it. Number two was I started going out to a lot of events and talking to a lot of creators, and without having this very strong sense of self, and every single person had advice for me. Every single book had advice for me. People told me you should do this, if you're a creator, you've hit the 500k, 600k mark, you need to start another business now. People told me, creators' shelf lives are very less, you need to reinvent yourself. I was told that you need to do more PR, you need to do more events. I was told you need to launch digital products. I was told you need to launch physical products, you need to launch a hostel, guide, ebook, a course. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm not doing enough. Number 4 pillar was traveling and all the micro decisions that come with it. So while doing all of this, it's not like I stopped traveling. So those micro decisions that you take when you travel, which is where to stay, what to book, who to travel with, who to trust. When you're traveling the whole day, you're taking 20,000 decisions. Like, what do I eat? Where do I eat? Which SIM card do I buy? How much money do I spend? There's a lot going on in your head if you compare that to a normal day at home. So I was doing that as well. And I think all of that came together in this one angry bubble called burnout. And then slowly the mini burnout started becoming longer. This started happening sometime last year. So I would say September, October, where I would just wake up feeling unmotivated. I didn't want to work. I did not want to travel. I didn't want to meet anybody. It was just like no motivation to do anything. Absolutely anything. And it became very, very hard because my mode of productivity and I knew myself, my whole identity was that I am a woman who works a lot, who is financially independent and is a hustler. That was my definition of myself. And I didn't have a definition beyond that. I didn't ever talk about my hobbies, my friends, other things. It was just, this is my definition. And I travel a lot, of course. And all of that, those parts of my definition were being attacked by my own, self of burnout. And the guilt came with not working 1 or 2 days. I would be like, oh no, I'm not working. And I would just feel really guilty. But I kept going, there was no stopping. I didn't even think that stopping was an option. And there's another quote that I'm going to throw at you by Oprah, which says, life will keep tapping you on the shoulder until it kicks you on the butt. I wanted to come to the next phase, which was the actual burnout as to what exactly happened and how I dealt with it. I went to Malaysia in February and the plan was to spend 2 months there, go hiking. I had lots of things planned in the Sabah Sarawak region, go to Ipoh, go to Penang, and just have an amazing time there. But something happened. I went there, and I think a week into being there, I started feeling low. And that feeling low was something I understood because it had been happening before as well, right? Remember? But now it was very intense. I started having, I think I had 1 or 2 really bad proper anxiety attacks this time with physical repercussions, as in kind of feeling sick, my stomach hurting, my head hurting a lot, and feeling this weird tingling. It was not good. And I was also in a weird state of mind where I kind of felt like a zombie. and I couldn't really work, and I was feeling very, very guilty. It was the same cycle, but just imagine a lot more exaggerated. That is the time when I remember I spoke to Julian. He was with me at the time, and he told me that, hey, I really think you are very, very burnt out, and I've been seeing you over the last months, and this is not good. You need to like do something about it. And I think that's when I started realizing that, okay, I need to take this seriously because I don't feel good. And if I continue to push through this, even though this time I don't think there was even a way to push through it, I will just not be able to continue doing what I do. And I don't know what would happen, but I would just not be able to continue being who I am, like just being my happy, normal self. Like, this is me, my baseline energy is this. And I was not there at all. And so I started reading. I read this book by the Yes Theory members. I'm forgetting, wow. Don't Talk to Strangers, that's what it's called. And Matt, in that book, one of the founding members of Yes Theory, talked about his experience of burnout. And I was like, whoa, that is everything that you write, that's happening to me right now. How do you know? And then I also watched this other video of a YouTuber who was talking about how she burnt out, and I was like, oh, this is exactly what's happening to me right now. And I felt better in some ways, but I also felt validated. I didn't feel like, oh my God, I was just not being able to do my job, and all that guilt that came from not being able to work and being not in that state of like constant, productivity. And yeah, I just realized, okay, I need to pause. I need to take a pause. This brings me to the next step, which was rebuilding, reconnecting, and rekindling the connection with myself. And step number one of that was to just take a break. I spoke to everybody in my team. I told them what's going on. I mean, they could also see it, right? Because there were days where I would not be in a good mood, like not like angry, but just sad. And I kind of told them what's happening, and everybody understood. So all those fears in my head where I felt like everything will collapse didn't happen. Like, it didn't collapse. No one was mad at me. I also took a lot of therapy, by the way. I don't think I could have done any of this without taking the amount of therapy that I took in those 3 months. So the one thing that I really realized is that I associate productivity to be my sense of self. So if I'm not productive, I am not good. Basically, if I'm not being productive, I am not valuable, I have no self-worth, and yeah, I should feel guilty. That became kind of my definition, and I had to rebrand myself. I had to work on that part of it. So the break was really important because I needed to spend 1 month doing nothing, not moving around, not working, and not being productive. So I decided to come to Indonesia then because Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur was too much for me. Big city life is not where you want to take your break. So I came to Lombok because I found a really cool gym here actually, and I was like, this is where I'm going to come. And I spent 1 month here, rented out a villa, and honestly did very little work. It was still impossible, to be honest, to take a complete break. I'm not going to lie, because imagine doing this since you're in college, right? Because I was in college also like working and doing like those internships and stuff, and then saying a complete no, I'm going to completely detach from working at all. That I think for me was just not possible. So I still had to do a little bit of work here and there to be okay. Just very little, maybe an hour every day, but that's it. The rest of the days, I spent my time playing paddle, going to work out, going for yoga classes, women's circles, meeting my friends, just doing everything that I would do on a holiday. And it was amazing. It was great. It was what my body needed. And that break really made me realize that everything will not fall apart and things will still be there when you come back, and everything is not as fragile as this world makes out to be. And I really, sat down and wrote down 3 questions that I asked myself. Number 1 was that, will I still do this job if I got $100 million today? And, would I still continue doing this? If I would, if my answer to that question is yes, then what would it look like? Like, what would my work look like? What would I do with my day? And lastly, what is my sense of service in this job. I personally feel like a big part of fulfillment that comes for me from working is not money. It can't be extrinsic. It has to be intrinsic. It has to come from within. And that was another thing that I was questioning, because I think the last few months, because I was aiming for this goal of I want to hit 1 million followers, I want to, earn this much. I kind of lost that perspective of like why I started it in the first place. In the first place, why I started it was for you guys, for people, for myself to feel more connected to other people and to offer everything that I know about travel, about life. And I kind of also realized that yes, I love traveling, I still do, but I don't want to travel at the same pace that I was traveling for 2 years. I don't want to hop countries every month even, maybe 2 times in 6 months. Maybe I don't want to make travel content around itineraries and costs and stuff anymore. I'm interested in other things. I love reading on health, I love fitness, I love healthy food, and maybe that's what I want to talk about more. And that month really gave me a lot of perspective. The next month, I also did something for myself. I went on a trek in Nepal and conquered a physical challenge for myself. And those days were amazing because it was just hours and hours of walking in silence. One key area that I needed to work on was rebuilding and defining who I am outside of work, outside of being productive. What are the things that I like to do? Like, I like to hike, I like to lay in the grass and read, I like to work out. I also love to cook healthy food. I love it, and it's so much fun to find healthy recipes and figure out what can I get the most protein and how can I hide my veggies in an interesting way. I love to do that, and I love to play sports. I used to do it so often when I was a kid, and I stopped doing it because it was not something that I could ever excel or make money out of. So I decided to rebuild that definition of myself. I decided that I'm going to take Sundays off because you need a break. I will not optimize the fun out of being a creator. I have been blessed with a life that is, that I have built for myself over the last 3 years, and I wanted to build a life where I can actually enjoy it. I can enjoy my definition of being rich. And I got rid of that badge that I gave myself. The hustler, the person who was stressed all the time, the person who didn't have any time for anybody else because I was always so busy. That is just not cool. And I told myself that because until last year, honestly, I thought that was cool. And I thought if you're not doing that, you're not cool. I'm being very honest about it, but I realized that's not cool. So I stripped that badge off myself and I was like, I'm not going to associate with that anymore. And lastly, I started seeing social media not as a finite game, but as an infinite game. I want to do this for a long time. I don't want to think of this as the next 2 years, the next 1 year, the next 3 years, because otherwise I'm always going to be stressed. I'm always going to think that this is going to collapse, or if I don't work hard for 3-4 days, everything is going to go to the dumps. But that's not how it works. If I see it as an infinite game, I know that if 1 month is low because I am creating content that maybe I truly enjoy, or finding a new content type or a new topic to talk about, I can always go back the next month. And that is how you see it. I see it as an infinite road, not as this finite job. And that really helped me a lot. Lesson number 4, I don't know if we were counting, but lesson number 4 was also anti-vision boarding. Thinking of all the things that I do not want so that I can only take things up on my plate, things that really aligned in the direction that I wanted to go in. For example, I don't really love talking about content creation as a core product all the time. Like, I don't like to teach people how to create content all the time. So I don't want to create a content creation course. I love writing scripts. Maybe in the future I'll create a script writing course, but the other things, maybe I don't. I don't need to put my energy there. So I decided to say no to more things, anti-vision board as well, in terms of work, in terms of relationships, friendships, figure out where do I need to draw my boundaries and say no. Then came lesson number 5, which is stop comparing, because comparison is truly the thief of all joy. Like, that is 100% true. Focus on yourself, and I've been so happy, like I'm telling you, I don't know how to explain this. Yes, I still do compare myself with 2-3 creators. It is how it is. Like, I'll be honest, there are 2-3 creators, I really like their work. I go on their page sometimes and I'm like, how are they doing this? This looks really damn good. There was a difference. Earlier it felt like a race. Earlier it felt like, shit, oh my god, this person is like moving ahead. Oh my god, they got this brand collab, I didn't get it. Oh no, they've launched this, I haven't done it. Now it's more like, oh, this is really cool, I like it, I appreciate this. And like, kind of like more appreciation and being like, could be interesting if I do it too, if I like this style, but not this feeling of, you know, falling behind by comparing my life to someone else's, because everybody has their own journey. And another, sorry for throwing so many quotes at everybody, but there was one more quote that I heard that I really loved. Spend so much time watering your own grass that you forget to look if it's greener elsewhere. And that is so true. So I love that line. So comparison was a big no-no. But I think most importantly was taking time out for myself, spending time with my friends, spending time with my family, guilt-free. Whew, okay, I know this was a long video. I don't even know how long is it going to be after the edit, 20, 25 minutes. So if you're still here and if you're one of those few, I don't even know, maybe 80 people, 100 people who have reached the end, thank you so much for watching. And I really hope that this could help you out in some way and you felt like you could relate to it. And there's a lot more content that I'm going to be putting out on YouTube now that is actually not going to solely be related to traveling, but more about the things that I've learned, more about the things that I want to talk about and teach. Because I personally feel like there are very few women who talk about productivity, talk about work, how to just be the best version of yourself, like just be a girl boss. And I want to do that. I want to build that space. I have so much to share. I don't know how it'll go, but that is the goal for now. And this channel, at least for the long form content, is going to be a lot about that as well. So I really hope that you stick through, that you enjoy, because I do have a lot to share, and I strongly believe that I can help you make your life better in many ways, health-wise, money-wise, work-wise, relationships-wise. So I'm going to be sharing all of that and lots of sunshine. Bye.